Hi everyone, and welcome to our webinar, which is today about TORFL C1 level. Today we're going to talk about three parts of this test, which is grammar and vocabulary, reading, and listening. My name is Larissa, so I will be guiding you through this webinar. And it's a continuation of the webinars you might have seen before, where we talked about levels A1, A2, B1, and B2. If you just joined us today, I'm just gonna quickly tell you what we're gonna do today during this webinar. We will see the overall structure of C1 TOEFL test. We'll take a look at different task types, and we will focus at three parts: vocabulary, grammar, reading and listening. They're all multiple choice mostly and not involve the examiner, so you just do it and they're marked automatically. We will practice some tasks and we will definitely listen to some text and read some text, and I will try to give you some helpful tips or ideas on how to prepare for it and what to do during the test itself. Also, at the end of the presentation, I will provide you with some books and resources which you might find helpful while preparing for the exam. So let's get started. First of all, if you just joined us today, I wanted to tell you a couple of words about our university. Our university, St. Petersburg State University, is the oldest university of Russia. It was founded almost 300 years ago in 1724. And it still stays as one of the country's leading universities, especially when it comes to languages. So we have probably the largest department of Russian as a foreign language in Russia. So if you decide to come to us to study or just simply to take a test, that's probably one of the best places to do it. We have currently more than 30,000 students and about 12,000 academic staff, which makes it pretty good ratio between students and teachers. So you can be sure that you're going to get some personal attention. And we have more than 70 years of experience of teaching Russian as a foreign language. We'll talk with you today about TOEFL. TOEFL is Test of Russian as a Foreign Language. It is a governmental exam, which makes it very official, which makes it the only exam which is recognized worldwide, internationally. And if you pass this test, if you pass the exam successfully, what you will receive is a certificate. So this certificate is in Russian and in English, and it's valid indefinitely, so it has no expiration date, which is pretty convenient. So if you decide to take C1 now, and then use your certificate when you decide to apply for a job a few years later, you can definitely do it. Also, you will receive a statement of results, which will show your results on every part, but it will not be represented in your certificate. So your certificate will just say that you passed this test. Okay, so what else can I say about our language testing center? We are a little bit younger than the whole university. We exist only for 30 years, but we are quite big since we have more than 80 testing centers abroad and in Russia. We have our tests pretty much worldwide, in North and South America, in Asia, in Europe, and of course we have a lot of testing places in Russia. Now we even offer tests online, so if you're somewhere where we still can't quite get a good testing center at, you can find all the information at our website, how to take the test online. That's also possible, especially now with the pandemic. We developed it last year when the pandemic has started and lockdown hit a lot of countries. So online version of our test is getting more and more popular. We are part of Association of Language Testers in Europe, and we take an active, we are active members of it. We constantly go to different conferences, different meetings. We try to develop and design our tests in accordance to the European framework, European standards and guidelines. And I hope we succeed in it. As I said, we give you internationally recognized certificate, which is issued by the Russian government. All right, so what about the actual test? As you probably already know, we have 6 levels, and 6 levels correspond with common European framework of references. So if you ever sat any exam in a foreign language, you probably know what I'm talking about. So we have 6 levels starting from A1 to C2. A1, A2, elementary and basic. Then the first level, B1, which is pretty much a threshold. Then we have the second level, B2, which you talked about, I think, last week. And if you were present at that webinar, you will find the third level, C1, being a little bit similar structure-wise and tasks-wise and requirements-wise, but of course, much higher in terms of the level. Then we have the fourth level, which we're definitely going to talk about a bit later. So the topic today is the third level, C1. What can we say about it? You can take a look now to the slide. What you will see is a global scale. That is a CFR global scale, which exists for every single European language. So we have just the Russian version of it. What can you do if you have C1 level? First of all, you can understand long texts pretty well. These texts can be written or they can be just pronounced to you. You can listen to them or you can see them and you are able to understand it pretty quickly. First of all, I think it includes an ability to skim through the text in order to understand the main idea of it, in order to understand and identify the key points. Then it includes an ability to understand the implicit meaning. I think this very specific ability appears only at C1 level. At B2, the level of your understanding should be factual, yeah? So what someone did, where it was, what happened, and what was the result, what was the outcome. During the C1 exam, what you will be asked about is not only the actual things that happened during the video, during the text, but also some implicit meanings. What can it be? What do you think? Try to write in the chat. What do you think can be implicit meanings of the text? What do we even mean by this term? Because it might sound like a very vague linguistic term, implicit meaning of the text. What can it be? Any ideas? I will be very grateful if you could participate in the chat because I think it just makes it much more fun and I just feel like I'm actually talking to someone, not sitting here by myself in front of the screen. And I think if we talk together, we can find the meanings, yeah, we can find the answers much quicker, yeah? So if you have any idea, even if a very basic one, what can be implicit meaning of the text? What's the difference between implicit meaning and explicit one? I see some people typing, yeah? Go on, finish it. I see. Thank you. Thank you, Adela. Yeah, I completely agree. Implicit meaning can be emotions, yeah, of the speaker. So you can be asked the question like, what do you think? What's the intention of the speaker was? Or what do you think, what kind of relationship are between these two people in the video or in the text? Definitely, that can be a part of it. Personal attitude to the topic, right? So what do I actually think about it? If I talk with you about, let's say, coronavirus vaccine, am I pro or against that? What do I think about it? What's my general view? Yeah. Also, I think any other ideas? Yeah, I see that someone else is typing. So yeah, irony, exactly. Yeah, thank you so much. It can be something like this. It can be irony. Yeah, so sometimes, you know how it is. Sometimes when it's a sarcastic text, you can say something, but you actually mean something pretty opposite, yeah? So things like this, you can understand through intonation. You can understand through mimics, gesture. You can understand through, if it's a written text, you can understand through the choice of words, yeah? Exactly, I think you summed it up pretty quickly. It's understood, though not put clearly into words, yeah? So when you're talking about explicit meaning, it's really there, it's written there, yeah? When we talk about implicit one, it's about the context. So I think at the C1 level, you need to be able to feel confident while you're reading the text that you understand the actual context of it, right? That's really good, thank you. Also, what you probably can do right now if you're at this level, you can express yourself pretty spontaneously. So when it comes to the levels below C1, maybe less so about B2, but definitely up to B1 level, you need some time to prepare. You need some time to think about what you're going to say. You start your monologue and you think about the first phrase, then you need to take a break to think about the next one. When it's a B2 level, it's probably your pauses between phrases, between parts of the text are less long, less obvious, but they're still there. Here at C1, you are expected to talk, well, I'm not going to say like a native speaker because we all know how native speakers talk. Sometimes we are very incomprehensible. But you're expected to have some logic in your speech. You're expected to be understood without the help of your interlocutor. Yeah. So you're expected to be pretty clear. Yeah. And if you take a look at the last parameter here on the slide, you can produce clear, well-structured and detailed text. Yeah. So pretty much without the preparation, you can show your usage of patterns, of connections. You need to be able to use your conjunctions pretty freely. You're probably operating complex sentences rather than simple ones. You probably know a lot of different patterns on how to organize these complex sentences. Yeah. You know how to express, let's say, concession, you know how to express reason, you know how to express a purpose, and you have pretty much a range for it. Since you are asked during the test, and we will definitely talk about it when we talk about the speaking part, sometimes you're asked to find a synonym. So it's very good at this level to have in your arsenal a few different ways on how to express the same meaning, and that's about flexibility. So let's say I want to say that the weather is really nice. What can I say? I can say that the weather is nice, it's good, it's great, it's a lovely day, it's sunny, it's clear, it's not cloudy. So a lot of different things that I can add. It can be pretty simple and straightforward, but it should be there. Yes, so you just not repeat yourself all the time. You're trying to use different structures, different vocabulary, and different grammar. So that's about the global scale, right? What else can we say? When you're actually ready to sit C1 level, you probably know approximately 7,000 words. Well, it's pretty obscure, right? Because we can't really count. When it comes to thousands of words, you probably don't know how many words do you know exactly. I mean, I don't, right? But what can we say? You feel confident while watching TV, Russian TV. You feel confident when you read Russian newspapers. Maybe you don't understand every single word, especially if it's a complex subject. For example, when you are a linguist and you read something about economics, obviously you will not understand every single word, yeah? But you can understand the general idea. And most importantly, you get a pleasure out of it. So you read in Russian for pleasure, you watch something in Russian for pleasure. It's no longer a task for you. It's not only a studying thing, but you're actually enjoying it. So probably you listen to different podcasts. That's actually a really good idea to practice before you take the test. You probably watch some YouTube videos and just read maybe books or whatever is interesting for you. You took about 280 to 30 hours after B2 level, and that's hours that you actually study with your teacher. So preparation hours, some hours that you spend doing your homework, studying your words are not included into this number. So that's additional. And most likely you spend some time in Russia. Best thing if you spend some time studying in Russia, because I think it helps a lot. It changes a lot when you start using your language on a daily basis. Of course, right now, in the situation that we are all now in the world, it's not very easy. But I hope that very soon the borders will be open and you will be able to come to Russia to practice your language and to feel confident while using it. I think confidence is definitely the key. Also, you use it frequently. I think what my students say very often is that at this level, they find Russian friends. And it's actually friendship. It's actually some kind of communication, which is not just, let's say, language exchange. Yeah, that's actually friendship where they can just go shopping together, talk about stuff, discuss current news, discuss politics. So I think it's about frequent usage of Russian. It doesn't have to be usage with a Russian speaker only. You can talk with with your language partner, with your classmate, just in Russian, right? So someone who also studies Russian together with you. Also, you probably want to set your C1 level if you want to use your Russian at work. So if you want to work specifically as an interpreter, that's usually enough to know your language at C1 level. C2 is not very important sometimes. Also, if you just work at a Russian company, or you have Russian colleagues, or you need to read and write Russian reports, that's probably the level which is going to be required from you. That's probably the level which your employers will ask you to confirm, right? So that's C1. What else can we say? Talking about the description of it, you can take a look at a very helpful self-assessment grid, and I can imagine that right now probably it's a little bit too small on the slide and it's not really easy to read, but since you're going to get this presentation afterwards, I just really encourage you to go through the slide, like make a little mark and just slowly but surely read every single sentence here and try to kind of measure your level according to the statements. Can you do it or you can't? Yeah, you feel confident to do it or you need some practice, right? So because you also can ask your teacher, yeah, so your teacher can probably have some other view on your level, how it usually is, but you can also just try to assess yourself. So what did we not say, which is on the slide right now? We said about your speech should be clear, your speech should be pretty long, you can understand the implied meaning, you find new words, not new, but you find the suitable word for your speech. You can listen to audios, you can read the magazines and newspapers without too much effort, as we say, for pleasure, right? Also, you probably read not only news-like texts, but also you read some literature. Maybe even some simple books. I really don't recommend you to read some children books because they are they're too complicated sometimes. But maybe you read something like an adapted reading books, or maybe not adapted, but pretty simple, some contemporary authors. You can ask your teacher to recommend you quite a few. Also, you can read some specialized articles which are related to your field of study or to your work or to your interests, to your hobbies. You can express yourself spontaneously and flexibly. So that's all about spontaneous speech. You're not going to be given too much preparation time at this level. And your preparation time just pretty much as long as my preparation time would be, yeah, if I'm asked to prepare a monologue for you. And you can use your language pretty flexibly. And at the same time, you can present detailed description. And what's very important, it should be coherent and it should be clear. What are you trying to say? You go from the most important point, let's say, to the least important one, or you go from something general to something specific. You can structure your speech in the way you like, but your examiner should see that you're actually able to structure it and you can see the structure behind it. Also, you can write, and I can really, really underline it here for you and emphasize, because I think we don't write this much nowadays. We don't really do it, because what we do, we send short text messages, we send short emails, and I think writing is the skill which probably needs to be practiced before the exam, just separately. You are expected to write on paper. Even if you take your test online, you're still expected to write it using a pen and then take a photo of it and send it to your examiner. You don't have to write in a cursive, right? So it's not really mandatory. Cursive is not mandatory on any of the levels. But I would say at C1 level, it really makes sense to write in cursive because the texts that you're expected to produce are pretty long. And that's why if you just write using capital letters or block capitals, yeah, as we say, I think you might spend a bit too much time writing them, yeah? So what you can do is you can just learn the cursive. It takes about maybe 2 days, and then you have a very useful tool that you can use during the exam, and just during your lives, you can just write much quicker. But as I said, it's not mandatory. If you find yourself pretty quick, even using block capitals, that's absolutely fine. Another thing which I would like to mention here is style. I think at C1 level, we really pay a lot of attention to style of our speech, style of our writing, style of what we read. So you're expected to distinguish formal styles, literary styles, so more like, just literature, like a book, spoken interaction, some sort of just colloquial speech, right? And you're expected to distinguish between them and find some good markers, some indicators of what kind of speech it might be, and also to be able to respond well to the examiner. So if I'm addressing you as a friend, let's say, if I'm addressing you informally, I'm expecting you to address me informally too. If it's more of a formal one, I'm expecting you to use a vocabulary which just corresponds with it. So I think style is really important, that you can definitely practice with your teacher. This is a very good question, Adele, about the graphical tablet. Do you mean the tablet which has potentially some internet connection? Because no electronic devices are allowed during the exam, unfortunately. So to be honest, I mean, it's going to be just very difficult for you to prove that you did not have any internet connection on this, because as far as I can understand, all these graphic tablets, they actually have technical possibility to be connected to the internet. So I think it's just going to be easier for all of us if you just have a sheet of paper. Yeah, it can be anything. It can be just a paper that you find. It doesn't have to be really, really clear and white. It can be just any sheet of paper. I'm pretty sure you can find it at home, and just a pen. And that's it. That's all you're going to need. If you have any corrections, if you have anything like this, that's not a problem. And of course, we're going to talk about it in detail during the writing part. Okay, so let's move on. As you know, every TORFL test consists of 5 parts. So C1 is not an exception. It also has 5 parts, so grammar and vocabulary, reading and listening. That's something we're going to talk about today, and writing and speaking. Writing and speaking are marked by an examiner, and we're going to talk about them separately because they obviously require some more preparations, and you probably need your teacher for this. Grammar and vocabulary, reading and listening, you can just prepare by yourself, which is pretty helpful, I think. You can just mark yourself against some mark sheets and just understand what parts, what questions you need to work on more. You need to get 66% on every single part, but if you pass 4 parts successfully, you are allowed to have 60% on one of the parts, and you can retake up to 2 parts. If you don't pass 3 parts or more, unfortunately, you will have to receive the whole exam. So you can't really just resit 1 part. Okay, so let's begin with grammar and vocabulary. Grammar and vocabulary, we have 90 minutes for it, and take a look. Actually, if you remember B2 level, C1 might even sound a little bit easier because we had 150 questions in the previous level. Here we have just only 100. We have 100 questions, we have 90 minutes for it, which looks pretty relaxed. At the same time, I really urge you to not lose your focus, because what we have here, first of all, which might be pretty scary, we have open questions. What does it mean? It means that you don't have choice, you don't have several options to choose from. You just have a blank, which you are expected to fill in. So you're expected to write usually just 1 word, maybe 2 as a maximum. What's difficult about it? That you actually need to find the word. What's good about it? Very often it's more than 1 correct answer. So it's not a problem if you find some word which technically works here, but maybe there are some others that could work. 1 is enough. Yeah, 1 is enough, and you will get points if it makes sense. Also, of course, there can be multiple choice, and at this level, during some tasks, you're asked to select all answers that apply. It is usually one of the last tasks, so it is usually at the very end of the test. So I really urge you to read your questions carefully, because it will be clearly stated in your question. Now you need to select all the tasks that apply. Выберите все подходящие варианты. So if you do this, then you're supposed to just write, just circle several letters, let's say A, B, and C. Yeah, all of them apply. What can you see in this part? So first of all, you can see verbs, and that's a pretty sophisticated usage of verbs, which we're going to see during our practice. Participles, gerunds, so anything that has to do with verbs, cases of noun, adjectives, and also participles, obviously, simple and complex sentences. So that's about connecting two simple sentences to one complex, or to find equivalents, or to identify what conjunction goes better there, yeah? It's all about vocabulary. So since your vocabulary range is rising pretty much twice, yeah, so you had about 4,000 words in B2 level, now you have 7,000, so you're expected to know quite a lot of new vocab. And style, as we discussed, is pretty important. So now I'm asking you to get ready. I'm asking you to get ready and help me answer the following questions. Don't worry if you give an incorrect answer. We're here just to learn. We're not here to check you. We're not here to check your knowledge. Let's take a look. So my first question is, what should we put here? Помогайте, помогите, помочь бы или помогали бы мне подключиться к интернету. This is really good. It's B, right? Помогите мне, пожалуйста, подключиться к интернету. That's imperative and that's perfective, right? Because we want it to be done only once for us. Excellent. Let's take a look at number 2. Мало кто сегодня безразличный, безразличным, безразлично или безразличен к вопросам экологии. What should it be? Nice, this is really good. It's D, you're absolutely right. I can see that you're ready to see one already. That's really good, it's D. Why? Because we have a short version of adjective. We're talking about one specific issue that you are concerned about, yeah, not just like you're a generally concerned person. И зачем я только купался в море в такую холодную погоду? Не болеть, болею, заболеть, заболевать бы теперь. That's an interesting one. What can it be? I can see the answer A. I can see the answer C. So we definitely know that it's going to be an infinitive. I think C is a little bit better, yeah? Because still we're talking about one particular circumstance, yeah? So right now I'm afraid to get ill, not to be ill, but to get ill, right? Excellent, really good. Let's take a look at the next slide. Okay, number 4. Ну, понятно, тебе не вставать в 6 утра. Here you need to find a suitable equivalent. Yeah, what's going to be the equivalent for this phrase? Ты не должен вставать в 6 утра, ты не хочешь, ты не можешь вставать в 6 утра, или ты не можешь не вставать в 6 утра. So if I say it to someone, if I say, ну понятно, тебе завтра не вставать в 6 утра. What do I mean? What am I implying? Absolutely, it's A. Да, ты не должен вставать в 6 утра. Тебе, we kind of missing the word надо here. Да, тебе не надо вставать завтра в 6 утра. So I think the first one, ты не должен вставать в 6 утра, is absolutely perfect. Let's take a look at number 5. Здесь ей не с кем поделиться своей радостью. Она ни с кем не хочет делиться своей радостью. У нее нет ничего, кроме желания поделиться с кем-то своей радостью. Она ни с кем не должна делиться своей радостью. Нет никого, с кем бы она могла поделиться своей... Отлично, это D. Нет никого, с кем она могла бы поделиться своей радостью. Да? Не с кем. Это, it's meaning just not to have someone. Да? Not to have. Whenever you have не, that's the difference between не and не. With не, you're definitely talking about not having something or someone. Really good. Let's take a look at the next slide. Some more tasks for you. Муж уехал в длительную командировку, и Мария очень скучает для него, из-за него, о нем или по нему. Absolutely, that's D. По plus dative, yeah? Not to be confused with скучно. Скучно is boring. Скучать – это to miss something or someone. Ты знаешь такой афоризм? Let's take a look at 7. Yeah, I see that you write answers for 7. Please do. Ты знаешь такой афоризм? Талантливый человек талантлив во всем, конечно. Talented person is talented in everything, right? So this is just about your usage of the correct case, of the correct preposition, but at the same time it's a bit more sophisticated than on any level before it. Что станет с рынком жилья после, через, по или до несколько месяцев. Конечно, через несколько месяцев, да. После will not really work here, yeah. Whenever we are talking about time, we're probably going to use через, right? Nice. This is really good. I'm really proud of you. This is not that easy, to be honest. Let's take a look at the next page. Number 12. Пациент не стал принимать лекарства, назначенные ему врачом, знал, что может привести к ухудшению его состояния. Хотя, отлично, even though he knew that it can lead to worsening of his condition. 13. Let's take a look at 13. Даже если бы эти экзотические фрукты не вызывали аллергию, я все равно не стала бы, не стану, стану. Отлично, я все равно не стала бы их есть, потому что у нас здесь это past tense. So what we have, вызывали, не стала бы. Corresponds, both are in the past. Звезда эстрады так странно отвечала на вопросы журналистов. В первый раз давала им интервью, чтобы, в который, будто бы и на что. Будто бы, да, будто бы, as if she gave the interview for the very first time. So good. Excellent. I have a couple of more, or even more. Yeah, I have some more slides for you. Let's take a look. I think 3 more. Let's number a bit of a wrong numbering. Don't worry about this. Неизвестно, почему сегодня самолет не полетит в Сочи. Погода сегодня нелетная, в аэропорту какие-то технические проблемы. What do you think can it be? Ни-ни, ли-ли, не то, и. Си, absolutely. Не то. We are not sure what's going on. It might be this, it might be that. That's a clear example of не то, right? Okay, right, something else. Дорога была такой утомительной, дети устали и начали плакать. Что? Чтобы, какой, будто. Конечно, отлично. Мы говорим о факте, да? We're talking about the fact. The road was so tiring that children got tired. It's not about the purpose. It's not about чтобы. It's just about the actual fact. Okay, really good. The last one we had. That's very nice. Number 11. Отлично. Let's move on to the next one. Number 15. По дням, утром и вечером на дорогах нашего города огромные автомобильные пробки. What do we call these days? Working days. Работный, рабочий, работающий или работящий. They all sound a little bit right, to be honest, because they're so similar. Рабочим, B. That's the right one. Really good. Полицейский, and here you really need to know this set phrase. What do we do with the fine? Штраф молодому человеку, курившему в здании вокзала. We have a participle here. We're not really asked about that. But what can it be? So I can see A. Excellent. This is really good. Он выписал штраф. It's always like this. Don't even be fooled by any other option. It's always выписал штраф. Okay, number 17. После отдыха у тебя. Very interesting examples here. What kind of look do you have after your vacation? Свежевыжатый, освежающий, освежеванный, посвежевший. Освежающий. Are you sure? Does everyone agree with освежающий here? I think that освежающий I can use when it comes to something refreshing. Yeah, for example, that's a really refreshing drink, or that's a really refreshing air or wind. What else can it be? D. Посвежевший, да? So you became fresh. Посвежевший, it sounds best here. Свежевыжатый is obviously about juice, and освежеванный, that's quite a cruel word that we use about meat. Okay, I have a last slide for you. Let's take a look. So here we need to find the corresponding phrase, right? Сосед выполнил все, что вам обещал. Лучше не спрашивай. Он оставил нас с носом. What can it mean? Он нам помог, обманул, порадовал или удивил. Any ideas? B, отлично. Оставить с носом means обмануть. That's true. Number 19. Как твоя новая квартира? Знаешь, я просто на 7-м небе. What do I mean when I say this phrase? Я очень высоко, я разочарована, счастлива, сердита. Счастлива, конечно. I think this expression exists almost in every language. Yeah, when you have something that really impresses you and you're in the 7th sky. Депутат Госдумы оказал, here we have some really formal vocabulary, жителям своего региона в решении сложных социальных проблем. Trying to find a suitable word, not only meaning-wise, but also style-wise. What do you think can it be? Well, if it's поддержку, that means he didn't really do anything, right? So he just like, I support you. Well, that's a lot of politicians actually do that. Yeah, they just support. But he probably helped them somehow. Помощь would be a really good answer if we're talking about a colloquial speech. What can be a very similar word for помощь and meaning the same thing, but a bit more formal? A. Содействие. Содействие и помощь are very, very similar in terms of meaning. Just помощь is a bit more colloquial than содействие. Great. So what can help you to pass this part? And I think you definitely would do it. Won't be surprised. First of all, you can read quite a lot. As you can see, to help you with your style, you might need to read newspapers, read different styles of text, not only one, not only something you really enjoy reading, but also just for practice. You can start reading different style of the texts. So articles, reviews, research, maybe some literature, maybe some gossips, if you like. So anything, just to practice and see, identify different stylistic features. Also, I really recommend you to use your apps or some other things just for you to memorize the vocabulary. So what I usually use when I study a foreign language is Quizlet. Quizlet is a very helpful tool. You can use all sorts of other. I'm pretty sure if I ask you to type in the chat, you probably all have your favorite app for vocabulary. Another one, which is a very common one, is Memrise. What I like about them more than, let's say, about Duolingo is because you can write your own words there, and you can make your own examples, your own translations, and then practice them. But also you can use just good old paper. You can try to write them by hand. What is good about writing them or typing them is that when you write, you actually memorize. So that's a very good tool. Even if you just write it down and never get back to it, it will still be very helpful. Because when you write, you memorize. Also, you can try to make some sample sentences with new words and just try to write a sentence that you will, like an anchor phrase for you. So try to write a sentence that you can get back to easily. Let's say when we learn verbs of motion, I think some really helpful phrases include хорошо долететь, have a good flight, принесите, пожалуйста, счет, да, bring the bill, please. All these phrases that I can just get back to if I forgot a word. I know that I will always remember them. They are the simplest and they are the most useful for me. So you can try to write some of the sample sentences like this. They can be a little bit longer and a little bit more relevant to you. Also, as we said, try not to focus on only one topic. Make sure you study different topics. You can use the vocabulary minimum. So you already know that for every level, we have this vocabulary minimum. It's a separate book that you can buy online. And you can use it. You can pretty much just tick out the words you already know. Or you can ask your teacher, what does he or she feel that you might need to revise? Also, I think it's quite helpful if you just try to use one new word every time you speak Russian. You don't have to make your goals, you don't have to set your goals really high. You don't have to say, okay, I'm going to use 20 new words today. Probably that's not going to work and that's just going to discourage you. But if you have this goal, I'm going to use just one word, one new word when I speak. That's probably going to work. You will find the chance to use it. And that's a second way to remember the vocabulary. One is when we write, Another one is when we speak. You need to produce it in order to memorize it. Because when you just listen to it, when you just read it, you can even read it multiple times. It just doesn't stay in. Yeah. So try to make sure you pronounce the word and you actually write it down. Also, don't forget which prepositions, which noun cases go with different verbs. That your teacher definitely can help you, or some grammar books can help you with that. It's just like, for example, just now we saw выписать штраф, да, оказать содействие. So that was number 20. Оказать содействие. It's just set phrases. The more you read, the more you hear, the more familiar they're going to be for you. They're going to be just as obvious for you as меня зовут or как дела, да, because it just said phrases we tend to use a lot. And of course, go through as many practice tests as possible. Unfortunately, for C1, it's not as many as for A1, let's say, tests are available, but still there are quite a few that you can go through. I will give you a full reference at the end of the test. Definitely, Agela, will give you I will tell you where to find the practice tests at the end of this presentation, so don't worry. Okay, that was about the grammar. If you have any other questions about grammar, please send them to the chat. I will answer them either straight away or at the end of the presentation, but take a look at the reading part now. So reading part is a little bit shorter. We have 60 minutes, we have 1 hour, we have 25 tasks. What do we have? We have 4 pretty lengthy texts. Take a look, 2 of them are 700 words each. So that is quite a lot. That is like probably A4, maybe paper, yeah, with a really good breaks between lines. And 2 of them are a little bit shorter, 2 of them are just half of these texts. And they're all different styles. Discussion means that you have several people talking about one thing. Interview, so a dialogue. Formal text, that can be an extract from a law or an instruction or something very formal. Literary text, so that can be even unadapted, Pushkin or Tolstoy, something relatively simple, but at the same time with very clear literature style. All the tasks that you have are multiple choice, and you are allowed to use a dictionary. The dictionary, watch out, it's not a bilingual dictionary. It's a definition dictionary, which means Russian to Russian. If you decide to use it, make sure that you practice it a little bit before you go to the test. Because what often happens is if you have never ever used a paper monolingual definition dictionary before, and for the first time you see it during a test, you might find yourself spending a little bit too much time on finding out how to use it. So to avoid this, just try to familiarize yourself with the dictionary you're going to use before the test. Or you can even decide not to use it at all, and that's completely fine. You are able to do this test without using a dictionary. The only words that are going to be unfamiliar for you are the words that you can guess out of the context. And also, it's just about maybe 10%, no more than 10% of all the vocabulary that you can see. Let's take a look at some examples. We're not going to read all the texts with you today, obviously, because it's pretty long, but we're going to take a look at 2 of them, and I'm going to describe what you do in 2 of them. So the first task that you will see is a discussion. This is a very interesting task to do, I think, because you read a discussion on something, let's say on artificial intelligence or on vaccination, yeah, so on something relevant to nowadays. And after that, after this topic, after the discussion about, maybe you will have 10, 15 phrases, you will have short summary of it. You will have about 10 phrases, which each of them is a short summary. And you will have to find out which of these theses, which of these phrases and opinions were mentioned during the discussion. So let's say if we're talking about artificial intelligence, and I'm talking about how dangerous it might be that we're going to have just a new Terminator and the robots will control the world, it probably will be at the end of the text, and you will circle it as a correct answer. This opinion was expressed. There can be some opinion that is just, for example, I think that artificial intelligence is cute. I never said it. Then you just circle it using the second column, which is B. So every single sentence will be just either one, either A or B. So either true or not true. This is basically true and false type of question. Usually it's about 4 or 5 statements that you can find in a text, and all the rest of 5 to 6 are incorrect. So that's the first task. This is pretty lengthy. And you have here that you have 15 minutes to do the task. Well, this is just for your reference. You don't have to look at your watch and just, okay, so I need to stop it after 15 minutes. In my experience, I think this task takes a little bit more time than maybe some others. So you might find it helpful to spend maybe a little bit of extra time on it. But still, don't try to overdo it. Don't try to spend all your time to one text, because you might then find yourself in the middle of the reading part and just 5 minutes are left. So try to still control you. This is obviously just about practice. What else? The next task is an interview. An interview is also quite an unusual format. You will have just the answers. So you will have the answers for some questions. We don't know for which ones. And what you need to do, you need to find out of all the questions at the end of the text, the suitable one. Just like in the previous text, some phrases are there just to confuse you. So you will need to identify which ones are correct and where to put it. And then what you do, usually you find an answer to the question. Here you find a question to an answer. I think this one is a little bit easier than the previous one, to be honest, but maybe it's just me. You look at your own abilities to do this and your own skills and your own interest. I think usually maybe it takes a little bit of less time. Try to look for keywords, try to identify what question can it be, try to imagine it, and then find something very similar at the end of the text. All right, now we're going to try to do the task 3, and I will explain you what we're going to do. You will have 3 texts, 3 little texts. Here we will see one of them. This is a very formal kind of text. So as we said, it can be from some law. Here, for example, it's about from some very dry, formal law style article. You will need to select out of every text one paragraph which talks about форма оказания государственных и муниципальных услуг. So the format of the service. We need to find in which paragraph they talk about the format of the service. I will open you the next slide and I will give you a couple of minutes to go through and try to answer this question. Okay. Whenever you have any idea, any clue of what can it be, try and type it to the chat. What do you think? Which paragraph talks about the format of the service? Which is about the format? All right. Any more? Well, this is really good. Congratulations, that was absolutely perfect. It's B, yeah? Let's take a look where it's written. Right here, yeah? Do you see it now? Чтобы качество услуг стало лучше, фонд внедряет новые формы обслуживания. So the fund introduces new format of service. So definitely, we're getting back to the question. Here we have just right about the form. So the answer is B. Just as you told me. This is excellent. So this kind of text you're going to experience here. How should we read this text not to get lost in it? If we just get back one slide again, it looks very lengthy and it looks very, very complicated. What we might want to do is just to skim through it. You don't have to read every single sentence here. You don't have to read every single word, and you don't have to understand every single word. Because if you decide to use your dictionary during reading this text, you will probably just get completely lost. You don't need that. You need to read using a technique called skimming. Skimming is a technique when you just try to identify the most important bits of the text and just only read them. What I recommend you to do is just really to underline the keywords of every paragraph, just kind of underline it. And just like I did on this slide, right? And that's going to help you understand where to draw your attention at. So here I think the keyword was forme. We were looking for it and we found it in the second paragraph. That's a great job. All right, let's take a look at the last task of reading part. And here I will also give you some time to read it. But first, let's take a look at the task. This one is a very straightforward kind of task. You just read the text and you answer the questions about it. So nothing really special about it. You can use your dictionary here, and that's probably the only text where you really might need it because it's a literature text and some of the words can be just a little bit too obscure. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you a few minutes to read the text, and then we will try to find the answers to the questions. But to do that, I want us to first read the questions. Let's take a look. Our first question will be about Vronsky's relationship with Kitty. And now you might understand and realize very quickly what book are we going to talk about. That's, of course, War and Peace. Oh, sorry, Anna Karenina. So, what were Vronsky's emotions about his relationship with Kitty? What did Kitty and her family see in Vronsky's behavior? And what do we understand out of inner monologues of Vronsky? Okay, ready? Now we're going to read the text. Okay, take your time. Okay, let's do about 30 more seconds. Okay, let's get back to the questions, right? Let's try. So what do we have? First of them is отношения с Китти. Вызывали у Вронского чувство вины, беспокоили и тревожили его или доставляли удовольствие? Really good. Definitely no negative emotions there. Yeah, it's all about the pleasure. Они доставляли ему удовольствие. Number 2. Китти и ее семья видели в поступках и поведении Вронского намерение жениться, светскую любовную игру или проявление дружеских чувств. Так. Отлично. Это намерение жениться, да? He saw it as a game, as a play, yeah? So, but Kitty and her family thought that he would marry Kitty. And the last one, the inner monologue of Vronsky shows that любовь к Кити к нему интересует его больше. Он придает серьезное значение отношениям с Кити, и он по-настоящему любит Кити. Конечно, Эй, я бы always now, since he's not very serious now, любовь к Кити к нему интересует его больше. Отлично. This is very good. You can't hear me? Does anyone else have the same problem? Now it's better, yeah? Okay, that's probably just with a little glitch. Okay, that's good to know it's better. Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so what do we have here? We use slightly different technique than we did last time. So the previous time, what we did, we went through the text very quickly and we did what we call skimming. This time, what we do is we're looking for very specific information in the text. This technique is called scanning. So what you do is you go through the text and try to identify the parts which are important for you. So I think the literature text, probably scanning will be the most useful for you. Also, a lot of these questions, as you can see, are about some underlying meaning, are about some implicit meaning and about the context. So I think you might find it useful to leave some time on the last part, to leave some time for doing this literature text and answer these questions. Okay, let's sum it up. What can we do? What can be the tips in terms of going through the readings? First of all, just like we did last time, you might find it helpful to go through the questions first. First, read the questions, then the text. Read your instructions really carefully. Read your instructions really carefully because they will tell you exactly what to do. They will tell you, do you need to read the text in detail? Do you need to find something specific? Do you need to just find an overview of it? So first, read the questions and the task, and then get back to your text. Try not to overuse your dictionary. I know it sounds very tempting. If you have a dictionary on your table, you might find it very relieving to just look for every single word there. I don't think that's a good approach because you might spend a bit too much time looking for it. So try to get out of the context. Also, read the titles of the texts because sometimes the titles are the key. The titles can help you to understand the general idea of the text. Yeah. Let's say if the title of the text is Ecologia, so probably it's going to be something about the environment, yeah, something about our global warming and all the other problems of the environment. So try to get back to the don't skip it. Yeah, try to get back to the heading and just don't skip it. Make sure that you answer the right question. Well, that might sound very silly. And for this, and by the way, answering question of Adela, I will just get back one slide. And let's take a look at the last question. Внутренняя речь Вронского показывает, что the correct answer was любовь Кити к нему интересует его больше. I think it is very easy during the test when you're a little bit stressed and you're not really yourself. Misread it, yeah, and read it in a way, not любовь Кити к нему, not Kitty's love for him, but the other way around, yeah, that he's interested in loving Kitty, right? So things like this can be very tricky. Make sure you read every single question carefully and read every single answer carefully too. And pay attention at the grammar. You know that word order in Russian is not reliable at all, yeah? So pay attention at the grammar. What is a nominative? What is an dative? What is an accusative? What is the subject? What is the object of the sentence? I usually say just when you translate a text, and you see the sentence and you don't really know where to begin, try to find something in nominative. If it's a nominative, that's most likely the subject, and then you have the verb, and that's how you get the main meaning of the sentence. Then all the rest. Then probably adjectives, describing a noun, then probably some objects, but the main thing will be there after you identify nominative and the verb. Last last recommendation that I can give you, and this actually is suitable for every multiple choice part, answer every single question. What does it mean? It means that if you answer it incorrectly, you will not lose any points. You will get exactly the same amount of points as if you just left it blank. But at the same time, if you leave it blank, you don't have an option of guessing right. So if you answer every single question, you have a chance to be lucky. You have a chance to just guess right. So don't forget, answer every single question. Right, now let's move on to listening. Listening lasts for about 35 minutes, so that's definitely the shortest part of the test. And we have 4 parts here. We have 25 tasks for them. So you're going to hear 4 audios. Most of them, sometimes you can have videos, sometimes you can have audios. So it's a dialogue, 2 people speaking, can be an audio, can be a little video, polylogue, which is a group of people speaking, which is sometimes a bit more challenging, which is sometimes a bit less maybe clear and understandable. Then you will have monologue. This is some speech of maybe a famous person. This is some lecture, some monologue about current events. So that's going to be just uninterrupted speech. And the last one is an interview. It's always a video, and it's again 2 people talking. But in the first one, it will be most likely a part of the film. So the first 2 or even 3 tasks are usually parts of different Russian films. And the last one is an interview, which is just a recording of, just one of the YouTube videos, let's say, or maybe a video from some TV channel. All the tasks here are multiple choice. And what you're going to have pauses, you're going to have breaks between the audios. So the audios and videos will not go one after the other straight away. You will have time to read the questions, you will have time to think about your answer, and you will have time to transfer your answers to your mark sheet. The breaks between each part are about 3 to 4 minutes. So that's about that. How can we improve our listening skills? So let's take a look. What makes listening so difficult? First of all, the pronunciation. It's very common in every language, including Russian, that we write a word in one way, but we pronounce it completely differently, and sometimes it's even completely unrecognizable. How can you help yourself here? You can help yourself by pronouncing the word or going to websites like TORFL.com, and that's a website where you can listen to different Russian speakers, or not only Russian, that's for every language. You can listen to different native speakers pronouncing words or even phrases. So when you memorize the word, try to imagine how it might sound in order to be able to understand it without necessity of looking at the text. Also, what makes it difficult is the speed of the speech. So sometimes it's very, very fast. What can you do? Just practice. Try to listen to as many audios as possible, and sometimes maybe even challenge yourself. I'm pretty sure you know, but in case you don't, on any YouTube video, you can make the speed of the video a little bit slower or a little bit faster. So if you already understand the video quite well, try to make it a little bit faster to see how you can understand it now. And that can help you feel much more relaxed during the exam, because it's definitely not going to be that fast. What else? It's a use of fillers, self-corrections, repetitions. Well, on one hand, that's a little bit difficult. On the other hand, we can learn from it. Why? Because we can use it ourselves. When you speak, even when you write, you don't have to be absolutely clear. You don't have to sound like you're reading from a paper. You can repeat yourself once in a while. You also can correct yourself, and you can use your fillers as long as they are in Russian. So fillers like will not work, but fillers like ну, возможно, ну так, that's good. That shows your really confidence in using your language and just a proficiency level. So when you listen to speakers saying all these words, try to identify them too. They might be helpful for you. Concentration, you will have to stay focused during this part. That's why usually we do it on the second day of the test. So the first day is usually writing, vocabulary and grammar, and reading in this particular order, because reading is probably the easiest out of them. And on the next day, we have listening and speaking. So you have the fresh head and you have full attention in order to understand all the necessary details. You need to process the information, and that's all about practicing it too. Finding a context that might be sometimes a bit challenging because you don't really know when this film was done, what kind of situation can be there. Try to imagine, use your imagination. It's going to help you during speaking part as well, when you're going to describe a video part. And of course, you can be nervous. Don't we all? That's normal. Try to take a deep breath in and out. And sometimes stress even helps because you just become more focused. I hope that's going to happen with you. What else can I say about the listening part? When you listen, try to pay attention at the details. Try to pay attention at names, numbers, some locations, because that's probably something you're going to be asked about. Second thing, try to identify the underlying meaning. Remember what we talked about at the beginning of our presentation today, is you need to try and find the implicit meaning of the text. So not only listen to the videos, watch them. They are videos for the reason. They are not only audio sometimes, just for you to see not only what people say to each other, but how do they do it? How do they look at each other? That can help you to find the right answer, okay? And finally, what you can do during your listening, and it's really up to you, but that's, I think, what is quite a logical idea to do, is to just write your notes on a sheet of paper. You can use maybe your question papers for this. And after that, after you listen and you're showing your answer, only then you transfer it to your mark sheets. Maybe that can be helpful for you. So what we're going to do now, we're going to take a look at the questions and listen to the audio. Take a look at the questions. Let's read them, and then I will switch not even the audio, but the video to you. В реплике сотрудницы содержится оправдание, упрек или подозрение. Сотрудница считает, что начальник не соответствует занимаемой должности, сознательно провоцирует сотрудников или не соблюдает общепринятые правила поведения. В ответной реплике начальник выражает непонимание претензии, рекомендует приступить к работе или уходит от ответа. Okay, so I'm gonna click to the video now, and you will have a new tab opening on your screen with a YouTube video. Please watch it, and then we'll get back to the questions.
Евгений Николаевич, простите, но это переходит просто всякие границы. Как бы вы ко мне ни относились, но есть же элементарная вежливость. Я 2 дня торчу вот в этой приемной, вы все время переносите наши встречи. Сегодня я приехала ровно к 4 часам. И что, весь день коту под хвост?
Ну, вообще-то вы находитесь на службе, вам нет никакого смысла сидеть здесь и ждать. Могли бы заняться своими непосредственными обязанностями.
Sorry, the video is not very good today. I'm sorry. That's all about the recording quality. I think you can actually understand more or less the general idea of the video, but of course we got a little bit cut out, yeah? What do we have? What do you think? Even listening to this really short part of the video, what can be the correct answer to the question 1? I know it's a little bit difficult. We're in a very constrained circumstances here, and I'm sorry about this, but is it similar to оправдание, упрек или подозрение? Absolutely, it's упрек. Yeah, so she's trying to scold him. She's not satisfied with his behavior. We can hear that, right? How do we hear that? Not only in what she's saying, but also in how she's saying that, how she's gesticulating, how she's behaving towards himself. The second question might be a little bit more difficult to answer. What does she think? That the boss is unprofessional, that he's provoking his employees, or he just doesn't follow the general rules of interaction? What can it be? We will make sure to post you the good video later so you can answer this question at home, but maybe you have some guess? I think so too. Он не соблюдает общепринятое правило поведения, да, so she is offended, she doesn't like the fact that she has to stay here for so long, and she is staying even without the necessity of doing her job. So she thinks that he just doesn't follow the general rules of communication. What was the last one? The last one was the very last phrase he said. What did he recommend? Did he understand her or not? What did he say? Should she start work, or did he try to escape the answer altogether? This was a very difficult question to answer with the video we got, but he actually, yeah, absolutely right, Mazur. He recommends to get back to work. I'm pretty sure if you watch the full video, it would be much easier for you. Yeah, but so definitely we're going to try to maybe even do it next time when we're talking about speaking and writing. Maybe we'll watch it just once again, or we'll, post it with a good video where all your presentations are. What can we say? Just to sum up all the tips about the listening. First, what we did, just like with the reading, we read the questions first. And that's a key thing. So when you have the breaks that we talked about, when you have these little gaps between one part and the other, don't spend this part listening to the questions, or reading the questions to the part that you just listened to. Spend it reading the questions for the next part, for the part which is about to sound. Why? Because if you know what to look for, you will be much more efficient in finding this information. You will be much more efficient in look for specific words. For example, here, if we know exactly what to look for in terms of his answer, we will be listening to every single word he said at the very end of the video. We will not listen to the words that he might have said before. Also, as we said, check your answers before transferring them to the answer sheet. So you might need maybe to make some notes, to write some keywords that you find useful, maybe to underline something. Don't hesitate to use your question paper. Sometimes it's very convenient to just use a highlighter or a pen to circle out the necessary words or phrases. And just like in the reading part and just like in the grammar and vocabulary, answer every single question, even if you're not sure about the correct answer. That was about listening part. So we pretty much covered the reading, we covered the grammar, vocabulary, and listening. So if you have any questions about what we just talked through, please do not hesitate writing them in the chat. I will definitely answer to them. And we are getting to the general rule of the exam. So probably you've heard it before, but just so you memorize on the test day, if you're taking it offline and if you're taking it online, you should have your passport handy. It can be your ID or your passport. You need to have pen. Again, it can be suitable even for an online exam, just because you might need or you might want to make some notes on a sheet of paper while listening to it or reading. Definition dictionary, it should be paper-based. Same thing if you take the test online, it should be a book. And what is forbidden is all electronic devices. So I'm afraid even a graphic, even anything graphic, and if anything that has a possibility to connect to the internet, even a tablet or a phone, is unfortunately not allowed. You cannot take your examination papers home, you cannot take pictures of them, and of course you cannot, just like any other exam, you are not allowed to talk to other candidates. You can use a dictionary during reading and actually also during some other part too, but we will talk about it later. We will talk about during speaking and writing. Take a look how our typical answer sheet looks. Still the same, just like for any other part. You need to circle the right answer. If you make a mistake, just cross it out and circle the other one. And just to make sure that your examiner understands it well, you can write down the correct answer in the spare gap. Right, let's take a look at some books that can help you preparing for this part. Your teacher might recommend you some, and maybe you have some your own preparation materials. I will also, at the very end, give you some tools, give you some links to some materials online. But if you have access to Russian textbooks, here is something that can help you. First of all, for this level, we also have a standard test. So this is the first test you might want to go through. It has, I think, one option there. Yes, so it has one version of the test, and you can begin with going through it. Then you have a vocabulary minimum. As we said, you can use it in a way like your dictionary, just marking every single word which is familiar to you or not familiar to you yet. You can also use it just in a way that you write your examples there. Also, государственный стандарт, that can be maybe more helpful to your teacher because it's a very dry, it's a very standardized text about the actual skills that you need to acquire by C1 level, about the knowledge that you need to have. So if you're preparing for this exam with your tutor, you can just recommend this book to her if she doesn't know yet. What can you do by yourself? You can do some practice tests, some test papers. First one is тесты, exists for this level too, тренировочные тесты и тестовый практикум. Pretty much the same authors for all of them. And you can find them online, I think. At least you definitely can order them online and you can get them delivered to your country or to your city. Another very helpful and useful set of preparation tests are учебно-тренировочные тесты по русскому языку как иностранному. There are 4 parts of them. So they are divided according to the parts of the test. The first one is vocabulary and grammar. The second one is reading, then writing, and then listening and speaking. They're really, really good. I would say that's going to be your key books to prepare for C1 because that's where you have not only the practice test, but also some very useful theoretical information that can help you structure your preparation better. What I like about it too, it has a lot of examples. So when it comes to the speaking, when it comes to the writing, you can find the actual essays there and explanations on what is good about this essay and what could be done better. The next set of books are something that's going to help you with your grammar and vocabulary skills. So Глазунова, грамматика русского языка, she has a lot, she has морфология русского языка, syntaxes, they're all very helpful. Let's improve our Russian, 3 parts, and if you find yourself studying based on English, this is the best book probably because it's all in English, it's translated, it gives a really good English language explanation. So if you have, if your main language is English, or if you study using English, you find it very helpful. All the rest of the books at this level are just Russian-based. Yeah. So that's some difficult cases of Russian grammar and specifically about verbs of motion. The next set of books is also was mentioned to you during the B2 preparation, and very rightfully so, because these books are designed for B2 and C1 level. I really like the book called In the World of People, В мире людей, because what we have there is we have very test-based approach. So we have texts, we have audios, we have prompts that you're going to see and hear during your real exam. So I strongly recommend it to you. I think the second volume, which is Аудирование and говорение, was just released relatively recently. And the first one was updated a few times. So try to maybe find the most recent here, the most up-to-date version. The next bit is that what can help you with some more specifically preparing for writing. And writing is very much directly related to speaking. So what can help you is пособие по развитию письменной речи «Золотое перо». What else is слушаем, понимаем разговорную речь, эмоции по-русски, да, emotions are really, really important in this one. And you will see together that during B2, during C1, which are very similar in terms of writing and speaking, emotions are really crucial. What else? Reading. Of course, you can read something out of this range, and I especially recommend you the first book out of them, which is out of the series Библиотека Златоуста, Читаем без проблем. They have books for every level, including C1. But what else you can do? As we said, just read as much online as possible. You are now at a level when you can understand unadapted texts. So try and do it. Go online, go read the news, even news about things like sports, if that's what's interesting to you. Just read as much as possible. And the final bit is about the listening. You can do the same thing. You can listen to the texts, and you can listen to Russian news. You can listen to Russian TV. What is good is a lot of this is available on YouTube just free. I know, for example, Первый канал is available online absolutely without any payment. Russian films, Russian TV series, a lot of them right now are on Netflix, Amazon Prime. Try to find them. At first, you begin watching them with, let's say, English subtitles or subtitles in your native language. And then in a few days, in a few series, when you get hooked by, let's say, a third or fourth episode, you can switch to Russian subtitles and then just switch subtitles at all. So try to do this. And what else I can say is I can recommend you our website. Here it is. That's where you can find, first of all, 2, or even we're planning to upload the third one very soon. You can find 3 more practice tests to go through. You also can find a lot of useful information that can help you to prepare for the test, including, for example, these webinars. And you can just watch them again, and you can take a look at the presentation, and you can send us an email. The same thing that you need to do is if you want to take the test online, you should just send us an email, and we will describe you what the next step's going to be. How does it look like? We will actually look at it at the very last webinar in this series, which is going to be, I think, in about 3 weeks. We will talk about the online exam, and I will show you exactly how it looks. I will show you how to navigate through this platform. But if I'm just answering your question in a very short form, Magella, you are sharing your screen with us, and you are switching on your video camera so we can see you, and that's how you take the test. But we will definitely go through it in details when we get to the last topic of our series, okay? So that's it for today. Thank you so much for your attention. And if you have any questions, please write them in the chat. And I will be here for some time. I'll just hang around here to answer your questions if you have any. Otherwise,